Welcome to Wiki Bearings, where we dive into the worlds of engineering excellence, from the automotive marvels to the industrial giants. Join us to explore the wonders that keeps the world in motion. My name is Hassanein Alwan, and I'm your host. Welcome to another Wiki Bearing podcast. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the automotive market and the automotive aftermarket in the GCC. I have a special guest with me. He is an expert into this industry. He has worked for many years consulting the OE and the aftermarket. I would like to welcome you, Sammy.
It's good to be here, and thanks for inviting me on behalf of Frost Sullivan to this podcast.
Sammy, you have been working in this industry for many years, and I know Frost Sullivan is also have been in the market for a long time, and you have been working for many years for Frost Sullivan. Now, just for our audience, just to start with, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yes. So I started my career into business development, and then spent a couple of years in an FMCG industry before moving into consulting. And my first consulting job is with Frost Sullivan. So where I started in India basically, and so I was actually part of their India operations and spent about 5-6 years. And then I had a 2-year stint with Kaizen Institute Consulting Group. So they are an organization who are into process consulting. So they work with a lot of manufacturing firms in the shop floor level.
The Japanese
Japanese
mindset of
Japanese mindset
process improvement,
continuous improvement, what they improvement, what they call it. So that's an organization I was part of in India. So we had an opportunity to work with some of the leading manufacturing companies in India and supported them in improving their operational processes on the shop floor level. So that was a 2-year stint, and then I went to Malaysia to again work for Frost Sullivan, and there I started my automotive.
Yes, the automotive career.
Yes, my automotive career actually started down under. So I'm someone who started working with automotive OEMs in Australia basically. So that's when I started. I was based in Malaysia, but I used to travel to Australia to meet clients.
More on the Australian market.
Yes, more on the Australian market. So Frost Sullivan has been in the business of providing consulting and advisory services for more than 60 years. Yes. So they have operations in all regions of the world, and Asia Pacific is one of the biggest region where we have offices in 7 different countries, and we have around 300 people in that market, basically working for local consultants, analyst team, so working for different sectors. Frost Sullivan does consulting not only for automotive. We also advise clients from other sectors. For example, industrial is another sector which we work a lot. We also work with chemicals, materials, food, and we also work with technology companies. So we do a lot of advisory and consulting work for different sectors. So we had a big team of 300 plus people in that market looking after clients from different sectors. I was part of the automotive group.
So you are the, if we call you are in the mobility.
Yes.
As a customer engagement director.
Yes. Yes.
What does that mean?
Basically, to see how I can.
It's a very long designation.
No, I'll say it in few words. It's actually my role is to bring in business for Frost Sullivan. Okay. I work very closely with the execution team to ensure that whatever we are promising to client, the execution team is delivering those. So meeting the expectations of our customers. In terms, because all these OEMs and car manufacturers come to us, with the one objective that how they can continue to grow their business. And if a new vehicle manufacturer coming to this region, they wanted to know how they can establish their business and grow their business successfully over a period of 3 to 5 years. So
Everyone wants to have some
Yes.
growth.
So the advice we give to them has to be, has to work in the ground. Okay, so that's why, they come to Frost Sullivan, because these are team of consultants who've been in the industry for more than 15 years. Collectively, if we put together the experience of all those consultants here,
Many.
yeah, immense experience,
Yes,
so
for
that's
sure.
why, we actually, so my job is to ensure that, we bring in as many clients as possible,
Great.
and sharing how we can support them, and then that's my role as a
Make
customer.
sure to meet the customer's expectation.
Yes. And manage the relationship, strengthen our relationship, establish our relationship. So these are, three key aspects, I work
Great,
with in my role as a customer engagement person.
Now, you have been here in the market, and have you worked? You are working all over the GCC, Middle East. You are working with the Saudi market, UAE market, and the surrounding market. Now, can you describe for us a little bit now? We have audience both from the region and outside the region, companies that want to come to this market to
Yes.
establish themselves. Some companies are already in the market and wants to grow their business. So how do you describe the GCC automotive market?
In terms of vehicle in operation,
Mm.
as per Frost and Sullivan numbers for
Mm.
2023,
Mm.
there are 16 million vehicles on the road, as of
Interesting.
2023,
Yeah.
right? And obviously, the biggest markets are Saudi and UAE, right?
Sure.
Saudi Arabia is about 8 million vehicles in Saudi Arabia. And as of 2023, we're not
Yeah.
talking about now. As
The
of
numbers
today.
are growing.
Yeah. So, and followed by UAE, which is around 22%.
Mm.
And Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman are pretty much the same percentage, about
Similar,
8
yeah.
and 8%, and
Mm.
all the other markets like
Mm.
Qatar and other markets. So that comprises of GCC for you. 16 million vehicles on the road. Okay, so we expect this to grow.
Now, I think especially if we look to Saudi, I think the expectation of growth is quite high as well, because I think also now the the women is entering the
Yes.
driving space, right?
Yes.
So I think maybe the growth is a little bit different from market to market.
Yes, that is another thing, which you need to look at from market to market. As you rightly said, women, joining the driving force, what you call it, become, they're getting licensed. There are a lot of, women drivers are in Saudi, and that's one thing which drives Saudi's, vehicle in
growth.
operations. And the other aspect, other things which is driving, vehicle growth in the markets are obviously a lot of urbanization taking place. Like you see a lot of these communities has been created, for example, in Dubai, you will see in a lot of communities has been created.
Yeah.
They don't, the public transportation has not developed in those areas. So people had to rely on their personal cars. So that is another key driver
to the growth.
which will help in increasing the volume, of cars sold in the market. And similarly, the lot of younger population want to drive some fancy cars. A lot of Chinese cars on the market that we'll touch upon those topics as well. So that's another affordability is not becoming an issue, and financing is made available easily in the market. So these are some of the things which is actually driving the market very well, and I'm pretty sure the volumes is going to increase significantly, even though you will see some impacts of some of the older cars going out of the market, but yet you will see an upside trend when it comes to cars sold in the market in the region.
Now, if we look at the market now, how is the consumer behavior different in the GCC compared to other markets?
The consumer behavior actually is driving a lot of aftermarket demand in the market.
Okay.
One thing I would say, the people are holding on to cars longer than which used to be in the past. Okay. The one reason is the lot of technological advancements and help the car to keep in good conditions. You have good maintenance of the car because you have pretty good servicing available and parts availability, servicing available in the market. So these things help customers to hold on to cars longer than.
So do you see that the age is getting?
Yes. So
okay.
Typically, I think what we understand. customers are holding on to cars more than 7.5 years. That is what we
Okay,
see
this
in
is
the.
this is
Yes. So that's this means this is the consumer mindset. So
yeah,
what is happening is because of that, obviously you need to ensure that we need to maintain your
for
car,
sure,
regular
for sure.
repairs,
Yeah,
and change parts,
yeah.
which is not part of the scheduled maintenance.
Mm.
So these are things which is actually driving the aftermarket
So
demand.
so you see that the car age is getting
The longer,
longer, right?
so that the time which you hold, the number of
But
years,
I think in
usually.
some countries is going the opposite. People are
Yes,
moving from like holding cars of 10 years to 7 or 8 years.
but in GCC it was lesser. Now,
Yes.
in the
Okay.
last few years, we've
So
seen
you
an
see that
increase.
trend,
Yeah, and COVID is also another reason why
a
people
driver
have
maybe.
hold on to their cars for a longer period of time, because a lot of uncertainty was around that time. So
Mm.
many were holding on to the cars. With the good condition of these cars, good maintenance available.
Mm.
I think there's no reason why you can't hold on to your car for a longer period of time. And this is an opportunity, the
Yeah.
consumer behavior
Yes.
driving the
Yes.
automotive, aftermarket
I
demand.
think it's very good for the aftermarket business for
Yes.
sure. But do you think that the reason is also have to do with the delay and the shortages of new car? I mean, after COVID, there was shortage in microchips. There were some supply chains challenges and so on,
Yes.
which delayed the delivery and the schedule of deliveries
The
of many
supply
cars.
chain challenges has always been there, but that is one of the drivers. Not, I wouldn't say that's the key driver for
Okay,
the changing
you don't see
consumer
that.
behavior. I know people have to wait for a longer period of time. From the time you book the
I
car to
waited
get.
for almost 6 months.
So so that is always there, but that is not the key driver here, because
Okay,
the key driver is my
the
cars are in
consumer.
good condition.
Mm,
Why would I put an investment of about 150,000 dirhams or 200,000 dirhams to get a new car, while my the car which I'm currently owning is in a pretty good condition,
mm,
and
mm,
I can actually drive it for another 2-3 years.
mm,
And with all these new business models in the car industry, like the subscriptions, the leasing model,
mm,
and
mm,
this is also another
mm.
way.
We will touch
Yes.
on this. But so if you look at the now the ICE engine have
Yes.
been in the market for 100 years.
Yes.
But I think we in the past, let's say after COVID, in the past 3-4 years, we have seen an inflow of what I would call them alternative fuel cars.
Okay.
Okay.
Let us put it that way.
Okay.
That's the right way to put it.
So how do you look at this flow and inflow of these cars?
Electric cars, because of the mandate at a policy level,
Mm,
there are a lot of agreements in place. There are stringent laws on emission laws in
mm,
place,
mm,
and there are targets set by different governments. So this means there are targets set by different OEMs themselves. They wanted to actually defleet all the ICEs, so they wanted to move in the direction of electric vehicles.
mm,
They need
mm,
to have at least
mm.
30% of their cars, electric, or 50% of the cars electric. So these are the things which is going to, on the policy level, these are the policies set by the different governments, is going to drive demand for alternative fuels. And one
Mm,
of the alternative fuels is basically the electric vehicles. Okay,
mm,
and that's going to have a lot of demand in the
mm.
coming years. Okay, this is going to increase, grow. Okay, there is already seen significant growth of electric vehicles on the road. Okay, and that trend is going to continue. Till we come about with some other fuel type. Okay.
Better alternative, maybe.
Yes, yes. I don't see that yet. There are talks on hydrogen powered vehicles, but these are all nascent stages. And
Mm,
I don't see them scaling to the level of electric vehicles in the next 3 to 5 years. It
mm,
may take longer,
mm,
but electric vehicles are going to
mm,
be the key driver in the market as an alternate fuel.
mm.
And Chinese are the, if there is one winner, if you want to pick on electric vehicle itself, there is Chinese, basically,
Sure,
without
sure.
doubt.
Now, what could be? Now, I know that in the beginning of this adaptation, it was cool to have a, an electrical car. It's cool to drive a car, and people wanted to test, people wanted to try. And I think now we reached to a level that people look at as one of the car option available in the market.
Yes.
So it's not anymore. Maybe now we look more into the functionality of the car. Is it, how is it different than uh, an ICE engine? What we call the traditional car,
Yes.
and then I think now we come to a stage to say, yes, this is already started to establish itself. Many brands, existing brands that now came up with
New
well-known
electric vehicle.
manufacturer, new cars, and they could many manufacturers you can have both alternative, either an EV, you could have a full ICE or a hybrid and
Yes.
combination. Now, looking at EV at least, what do you think is today's challenges?
The main challenge I see,
Mm,
the EV incentives. Okay, so there is the huge price difference between owning an ICE car versus EV. There is always that difference still remains, right? Um, these were somehow managed by incentives from different governments.
mm,
So that is actually going to be completely stopped. Okay, so
mm,
the incentives provided by the government so that
mm,
you can afford an electric car,
mm,
that's no longer is going to be there. So that's one of the biggest challenge,
mm,
I see when it comes to owning an electric car, the
mm,
price.
mm,
Okay, so that I see because these governments are not supporting anymore,
mm,
right? And the other challenge for OEMs, because of this stringent emission norms set by different governments, okay, this is putting a lot of pressure on their profitability also,
mm.
right? So they no longer can afford to sell cars at a lower price, the EV ones especially. And this,
Especially that the aftermarket is not as profitable when
yes,
it comes to
yes,
EV compared to
yes,
an
yes,
ICE engine, because
yes,
you don't have as many parts you
yeah,
can sell in the EV industry the way you can sell an ICE engine.
yes, and
I
that is
mean,
an
the construction of the car is so
yes,
different.
it's different. And then that's these are the main challenges, for EV manufacturers, because of lack of government incentives, whether and the other thing which is a challenging aspect, the charging infrastructure,
Mm,
that is not evolved as much as you like to be evolved, right? So people still have that range anxiety. Let's say if I take
I
my
drive
car.
one. I have this problem. Uh,
What if?
what if?
Uh,
No, I mean, actually, the new generation of cars have a good range,
yes,
but still, if you're taking a longer distance, you would
exactly.
think, will I find a charger? Will
Absolutely.
it
What
be?
if it stopped in the middle of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
middle of
So
nowhere?
this is.
This is another from a customer standpoint. One is obviously the cars are not getting cheaper because of
Mm,
lack of government support. Secondly, there is no the charging infrastructure is not evolved to the extent it needs to be evolved
mm,
to ensure that these cars are the customers wanting to drive more EV cars,
mm,
and that confidence is still not there in many markets. In Europe, maybe yes, okay. So if you look at it, one statistics is like for every 12 cars there is one charging stations,
mm,
charging point is for every 12 cars. So that's a thing math here, but that has not happened in this part of the world, right? In emerging markets, in this side of the region, in
mm,
GCC
mm,
especially, that always the range anxiety is always there, and people prefer to hold on to an EV as a second car or a third car, not their main
main car.
yeah, yeah, so that's the thing.
Like of personal experience.
Mm.
So I was 2 weeks ago in Sweden, and uh, we were driving, and a friend of mine, he have an electrical car, and so while we are driving, I know that the distance we are taking
Mm.
going to be much longer than the range. But he said, no, we'll have some coffee, and so this is and the what I was very very surprised is the charging power and the speed charging and the capacity of
Mm.
chargers is in a very very different. You
Mm.
can have easily 200 kilowatt chargers where we struggle in many places to find 20.
Exactly.
So we stopped in like after 200 or 300 kilometer, we stopped, we had coffee, and in 30 minutes we charged more than 50%.
Yes.
And that that is not not the same. For me to charge my car, it will take me 4 or 5 hours,
Yeah,
and maybe if I find faster charger, maybe it will be a little bit less. But we are far away from 20 minutes and 30 minutes,
yeah,
and the charging capacity is for some cars is depending on the car's acceptance of such power.
absolutely,
So if you have an old car that cannot take such power, but if you
absolutely.
have a new car, so this is also the infrastructure for superchargers.
Yes,
Is I think we have to still wait and see.
absolutely. Yes, that's a major challenge.
Mm.
As much as I want to own an EV, and always think twice before taking it out for a long haul, like
Yeah.
400 kilometers, 500
Mm.
kilometers.
Yeah.
Will I find a charging station? What
Yeah.
if I get stuck? Hybrid, okay,
Yeah.
that's a safer
Yes.
option to
Yes.
have. Even if you wanted to
Mm.
hold on to a
Mm.
EV, but
Mm.
pure battery electric
Mm.
is something is still a concern in this region.
And if you look at this region also, compared to other regions, if you compare the GCC to the rest of the Middle East or to Africa, still we have a much better infrastructure.
yes, yes, yes,
And but I was surprised that actually Jordan have a very good.
yes. Surprisingly,
Yes,
they are the ones who are actually doing pretty well.
yes,
And
and
the
it's
EVs.
growing. This EV is actually the sales of EV is very
Pretty
very
good
strong.
in
Yes.
that market. Yes, yes, yes.
But it's also I think very much driven by the government policies and
Yes.
incentives. Now if we look at now we have these challenges now, but still I think the future, or at least part of the future, is EV. We cannot
Yes.
deny that.
Yes.
Maybe it's not the only future.
Let's put it like this:
Mm.
alternate fuels is the way forward,
Mm.
and the percentages will differ from EVs to hydrogen-powered vehicles, other fuel, technologies. But yes, as you rightly said, EVs is going to dominate the market, in the alternative fuel side.
I look at it that EV, my perspective. Now, I'm not an expert, but I'll give you how I
Yes.
look. Now, from my perspective, I look at EV will not be the only future,
Exactly.
but will be part of the future.
Absolutely.
I think now, because I'm maybe an engineer and I love the traditional ICE engine, but I think there is one thing that I see, that we have perfected the ICE engine over 100 years.
Yes.
This combustion engine,
This is going to stay for long.
when we started this journey of combustion engine, we with 4 liter we were struggling to get 100 horsepower.
Yes.
Now with 1.4, 1.5, we can get 300-400 horsepower.
Yes.
So that efficiency that we have reached,
Yes.
it's going to take generations of alternative fuel until we reach that efficiency.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I think still the ICE engine is an engine that is perfected over many years. Alternative fuel will be, and I think we will explore. Probably there will be maybe new generations of batteries, maybe fuel cells,
Yes.
maybe. So I think that evolve, because I think maybe we are still EV 1.0. Maybe there will be other.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
all
Yes.
these challenges, I think it will be overcome over. I mean, at the end, the ICE engine was not perfected over 10 years. We are talking about 100 years.
Yes.
So I think that the market will look very different in another 100 years.
Yes.
Let's look at for a moment, with what is going on. Let's look at how you see the aftermarket impacted, or what's going to drive, or what drives going to happen in the aftermarket. Now we have a growing number of EV. We like it or not, it's a growing segment. Sometimes, yes, I know in certain cars they are more expensive than it was incentivized, but also there are now cheaper alternative, more
Yes.
affordable cars. So we see that there is a growth in the sales. Now, still, the car park is dominated in many countries
ICE.
by the ICE. But what will happen in the aftermarket?
I don't see many changes. EVs impacting the aftermarket. Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Because the demand for EVs is still at a nascent stage. It's not, if you look at the split between the IC and EVs, IC still dominate, right? I think, but you need to you need to prepare for the worst. The other good thing is basically the EVs to get to 25% to cover the 25% of the market for cars. It's going to take another 10 to 10 years, maybe more. 25%, reaching that 25%. But as if you ask my perspective, EVs at any given point of time will not cover more than 25% of the total. That's the overall size. It's my perspective.
Yeah.
Not more than that. Okay. But it still has to be. It could be ICE or alternative. Fuels. Will have to cover the rest of the car park in the world, right? So I don't think and the other thing is with EVs, the TCO, total cost of ownership, is comparatively lower. Okay. And easy to maintain these cars. Okay, it'll have some impact on the aftermarket, but I don't see that having a huge impact. Okay, and
At least in the coming 5 to 10 years.
no, I don't see that in the near term. You don't see that having a bigger impact in the aftermarket, and especially for parts and stuff like that.
When we look at the EV and we look at ICE now, why people are moving to, for example, electrical vehicle? One is sometimes is fuel saving,
Yes,
environmental,
environmental is the main reason.
yes,
Total
and,
cost of ownership is less.
and total cost of. Now, I think in between these two, the hybrid is taking the
major portion.
It's giving you the best of the two worlds.
Yes.
Which, if you look at the efficiency of a hybrid car, is very good. Fuel consumption is less. Both, I think, plug-in hybrid or not. I think it's a very good option to have a plug-in hybrid.
Absolutely.
And this would give you kind of the best of the two worlds. So it feels to me naturally that this would be driving the market at least in the coming 5 years.
Absolutely, yes. That's if you look at the volumes today, if you kind of put a split on the EVs, basically, what are the EV sales happening across the world? I think the hybrid takes the lead. The pure battery electric vehicle is it's a little down in terms of the volume sold. The hybrids are the number one driving the EV space. Actually, it's safer, right? From a customer perspective, it's safer. It's good. So I think people prefer hybrid cars more than the.
When I travel, I like to ask the taxi driver because these are the one that knows the car, knows the market.
Yes.
And recently, when I travel a lot, I find them driving hybrid, and I ask them, why you're driving hybrid? And for many of them is the flexibility that hybrids gives.
Exactly.
But also the fuel efficiency. So because it's giving you less cost of ownership if you're driving a lot, especially in some countries where the fuel is expensive. So there is a lot of saving there. And also some of the plug-in hybrid have grown into capacity reaching 100, 120 kilometers. So technically it's an electrical car until you reach 100 kilometers.
Absolutely.
Then it becomes. So I think it's giving the advantage of these two worlds. And I love the hybrid when I look at the aftermarket, because then we're gonna have I think it will impact the aftermarket even more positively because you have both.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly, right. So I think hybrid is going to be the major driver in the EV. When it comes to, you look at the EV, you put hybrid on top, and then the plug-in hybrid and the pure battery electric. So I think that's going to be the order because it's easier, as you said, fuel efficiency, total cost of ownership is going to be less. Okay, and this means it'll positively impact the aftermarket as well.
Yes, yes.
So these are the reasons, I believe.
Now, if we look at the past 100 years, when we got the first cars moving into, so the car production has been driven from West,
Yes.
and this West move of car production from US, Europe, and moving on. And now, when it comes to EV, it feels like the wind is blowing from
Yes.
east.
Yes. Definitely yes. As I said, if there is only a winner in EVs, which is Chinese basically. So they are the winners in China in EVs basically. The reason is, one is the mass production capacity which is available in the country, and the number of brands that's coming out of China is huge. The technological advancements, the what do you call it as, like, all the features in the car is on par, and sometimes much better than the European and the American cars, and that's another thing. And they have a pretty good what we call it as supply chain as well, and um, and the last but not the least, in terms of the price, like, with full-on features, you are getting this car at 1/10 of the price of the cars
A
which is sold.
luxury car,
Yes,
yes.
exactly. So these are the reasons, why I believe China is going to dominate the EV, space. Okay, so, and they're going to, and you see a lot of models coming out, a lot of brands,
I read.
and they're, to add to one more thing,
Yeah.
and they're also resorting to alternative, business models in different markets. For example, in Europe, from a vehicle ownership to a subscription model, right? These cars are used in e-hailing. Okay, so some of the Chinese OEMs are moving in that direction as well, right? So it's giving the customer the flexibility. I don't need to own a car. As long as I have a subscription, I still be able to drive the car. So these are other alternative business models, which is giving the Chinese the position they are in, and I'm pretty sure they're going to dominate the EV space, moving forward as well.
I think with the Internet of Things and the connectivity and so on, it is many business models are evolving,
Yes.
and an electrical car with all its features, and some people will call it a mobile with wheels. It's having all of these features
Yes.
that enable easier access, connectivity online, and so on. For sure, I think it's how the future is looking. But how do you see this will impact the well-established brands in the GCC?
See, the well-established brands in GCC, they're also getting into bringing out the EV cars, because they have to go with the flow of what is happening in the market. They just can't think that nothing is going to happen, nobody's going to take away our markets. No, and they'll have to come out
Adapt.
with
At the end, the market is the market.
So the biggest advantage for this established OEMs is the existing network which they have in different countries, right? That the confidence the customer will have owning a Japanese or an American or a European car, when they know that their after sales service will be taken care really well, the parts availability will be there for their cars. So I think these are, and then they have enough and more networks available across different parts of the world, even in GCC, for example, so that as a customer, I'll not have the fear, like, where do I go and service my car if something goes wrong with my car? And that may not be the case. I'll be confident that the parts which I want to change is easily available when it comes to and easily accessible, available. These are some of the things which is going to still customers preferring these OEMs, the established OEMs, but the Chinese are able to dominate the market because they are very strong on the vehicle side. From the aftermarket is something which they need to improve significantly if they wanted to sustain this position as a dominating force in the EV space. That is that is where these legacy OEMs, the well-established OEMs, can dominate.
Mm.
But when it comes to, because now it's a stage of, we are still talking about, volumes. We're not talking about like, the markets are not matured for EVs, right? There's still a lot to be sold. A lot of growth opportunities are there when it comes to selling new electric vehicles, in the market in different regions of the world.
Mm.
And so we have not yet reached a stage where, we need to focus on how do you retain, your customers, right? When that stage comes, that's when, you will see whether Chinese is able to sustain that growth, because there is a big question mark always on their aftermarket capabilities, as a region, as a country, when it comes to producing cars, and these OEMs can take advantage. So
I think for sure, if we compare the well-established brand, when it comes to an aftermarket perspective, they have the customer confidence, the customer's
yes,
trust in the aftermarket. Maybe sometimes we don't see them coping up with the change the
yes,
way the some of the Chinese manufacturer are able to, with whatever, if it's feature or pricing or model or design. One friend of mine was telling me it looks they are printing the cars.
exactly. So that's why I said the
New model
massive
every
production
few months.
capacity.
It's massive,
Yes,
which gonna give them a challenge on the aftermarket, and I think there will be. So we have now, like, if we conclude or we just, I mean, there is one strength on the production side, one strength on the aftermarket,
yes,
and I think the well-established brand have also a certain brand value that they can rely on, which
yes,
is built over years of
years,
time. So I
yes,
think it will not be an easy challenge or an easy and I think the years will show who will be able to sustain the business.
sustain. Yes, that's the most important.
I was reading a report. There is 129 car brands in China.
Yes,
I think this is also not sustainable.
yes,
Probably
a lot of them will go out.
there will be some consolidation.
Yes,
There will be probably some technological advancements. Some company maybe will go out of the market and so on. But I think definitely it's again we are living in an interesting era
yes,
of transformation.
yes. Transportation has
Yes.
become, pretty interesting. You have a lot of options available as a customer at your disposal,
Mm.
and you have a lot of things to choose from, and that's a good thing, right? As a customer,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
have different options. I
Mm.
don't have to rely on only these brands, right? Well established brand. Now, I have flexibility to choose cars, and some of them are pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
As,
No, nowadays, I think we see the technology was it's not most of these new car manufacturers, they are not new in the business.
yes,
We just experience them newly.
yes,
Some of them have been in the market for a long time. It's just
yes.
that outside in this region, we did not experience them.
Absolutely. I think these are cars which is predominantly China as a market is in terms of the population is also very big,
Mm,
second, largest, next to India where
mm,
I come from.
mm,
So these are cars which is mainly used for domestic,
mm,
demand. Now the Chinese see an opportunity to, get their cars out of their country, and then they are taking,
mm.
full advantage of the opportunity available at their disposal.
Now, if we look at some of at least the well-established brand, it feels, now I'm not sure that you can confirm
Yes,
or
yes.
it feels that there is also a bit of a bounce back on producing some electrical or going fully EV. Is this is something you
Yes,
see?
yes. We have noticed these trends, and there's the lack of government incentives, and
Mm,
the stringent emission norms set by
mm,
different governments,
mm,
and that is actually putting a lot of pressure on the profitability of these well-established brands. So they initially you see some announcements, and they're setting targets and the milestones that by this 2030 we will have 25% of the cars coming out, from this OEM is going to be fully electric, right?
mm,
So they have started revising those,
mm,
targets and numbers, okay,
mm,
because of these, macroeconomic, factors. lack of government support, that is actually putting a lot of pressure on their profitability, and they're rethinking their whole strategy, and they're kind of delaying and
Maybe postponing.
postpone and the revision of their targets, okay, and the emissions. So basically, if you're not, so you have to buy carbon credits if you're not fully, compliant with the carbon emissions and stuff like that. And it's not, it's an expensive thing. Buying carbon credits for other players is an expensive thing. This is all add up to the the cost. So they are kind of going slow and then pulling back on some of their aggressive plans, and eventually you'll see that having an impact on the number of different models brand coming out from on the EV side.
Do you see there is also a bounce back on from a consumer perspective?
And I don't see that consumers will be happy till the time they get good amount of cars, okay, and as long
No,
as
I mean like, do you see that there is a lots of for sure we know a lot of people are entering the EV as a consumer.
yes,
Do you see that people are going back to ICE? Is this something you can see?
I've not noticed,
Okay.
because we still see
Good
the
growth
good
on the-
growth on the EV side. I don't see that we have seen a slowdown, and you cannot attribute consumers, pulling back. There are a number of other reasons, for that. Pricing may be one of the reasons, because I'm not getting incentives, lack of government support or incentives, meaning that I'll have to spend more money to own an EV versus an ICE car. So I would look at, in price sensitive markets, as a consumer, I would look at a cheaper option, right? And that's one way of looking at it. And the other ways is like, basically there are a lot of OEMs, and especially I've learned it in India. So for example, a Chinese OEM is offering this battery as a service. You pay only for the kilometers you've driven.
Okay.
So the battery is basically a 20 to 30% of the overall cost of the vehicle, right? So you don't pay for the battery, so you just pay for the
kilometer.
yes. And so that is actually, you pay for the kilometers you drive, okay. So that's a model, a new business model,
So
some
a
of the
type of a
yes,
subscription.
subscription.
But I think this model was long way established in the transportation industry.
Yes,
Like,
but you've now witnessed this in the car industry.
yeah.
But you see that a new business model emerging, in the so that the consumers don't feel that they're paying more. So the prices are on par with the ICE vehicle. So that gives us an option, not pulling back as you were rightly asking. But I don't see that happening. The growth is slowing down. The number of EV cars sold in the market, that is happening for sure. But then not to an extent where
Now, if we look at the government is removing some of their incentives. Now, isn't that maybe have when it comes to the energy, the grid capacity,
yes.
the production of electricity, having an impact or reason to remove these incentives, or there is other reasons for
I
that?
think this is one of the main reasons, why governments are, reducing, removing the incentives. Okay, as far as ours concerned, also that's the right, that's why the incentives are, removed from these governments, because of the lot of pressure on their side also, right? So
Because
yeah.
if we look at many countries now, maybe in the GCC, the countries are young. There is the grids are new grids for maybe 20, 30, 40 years old. But if you look at many established country, the grid will not have the same capacity.
Yes.
And to invest in upgrading the grid would be a very expensive exercise for
The
governments to
capex
do.
investment is going to be huge.
So then I think some governments are looking, is it sustainable at the end to spend all of this to upgrade the grid to drive EV?
Exactly.
So the feasibility, I think, for some governments are not.
You don't have the luxury. Not a lot of governments have the luxury to pump in money like what we're witnessing in Saudi, for example. So they have to be mindful of where they are spending the money, right? So plays a significant role when it comes to this EVs as well. Yeah, definitely.
Now, if we look at now, the digitalization is taking over almost everything.
Yes.
Now, partially the car, we are much more connected. The car is the car as connected. The aftermarket is
Yes.
trying to leverage the connectivity. When it comes to spare part,
Yes.
we are getting more connected. We have e-commerce, we
Yes.
have subscriptions, and
Yes.
now give us your thoughts on how digitalization is gonna shape the coming years.
Definitely, it's a positive trend, digitalization, which is one thing which is gives a customer a lot of options. Okay, so you go online, your options to choose from, parts availability, and then a lot of these online aggregators are actually driving the customers to helping the customers to choose right kind of parts. They are also directing you to the right kind of workshops. Okay, and those are things which is this digitalization happening in the aftermarket. The e-commerce bit, it's going to is a positive sign for the they are driving the aftermarket demand. Okay, and one of the main challenges these online aggregators are facing at the moment is the cataloging thing. Okay, so they are very closely working with the vehicle manufacturers as well as the tier one suppliers to ensure that this digital catalogs are ready, available, so that's easy for the customers who wants to use online as a channel to, because this is a market which is basically do it for me market. Okay, so there's two different sides. You yourself a do it for me market. This market is predominantly a do it for me market, right?
Yes.
So the online aggregators are playing a pretty good significant role when it comes to directing the customers to the workshops, and they're also working very closely with the OEMs and distributors to ensure that the digital catalogs are available in their platform, so it's easy, making it easy for the customers. Okay, so digitization, e-commerce, these are the things which is going to drive the automotive aftermarket as well. It's going to give a lot of options for customers to choose from as well.
But if we look at now again, we are in, if we compare ticketing or hotels or many, they have been digitalized maybe 20
Yes.
years ago.
Yes.
And when we look at the industrial segment, the aftermarket segment, we are quite new in this era of
Yes.
digitalization. And this is bringing also new challenges into. What do you think is the main? I mean, one thing you mentioned is about cataloging, and I think it is a problem. I think you need to speak the customer's language, the OEM language,
Yes.
the language of the mechanical and so on.
Yes.
And I think there is a challenge. But do you see, is there any other challenges that driving or slowing down the transformation into a digital economy in the automotive aftermarket?
I don't see any other trend pulling the bar. The digitalization happening in the in the aftermarket space. The which is only going to positively impact the aftermarket. I think this is really critical, and we are already talking about AI. Coming into the picture. Pretty soon.
Sure.
Not just online portals, digitalization happening, but we're trying to see how the AI can be integrated to the whole of this aftermarket digitalization process, e-commerce, etc. So that's another thing which is going to kind of fast track the digitalization efforts in the aftermarket space. Okay, so I don't see anything else pulling back apart from these other operational challenges more than anything I see.
If we look at charging stations,
Yes.
UAE, Saudi, the surrounding market, I think you mentioned earlier that there is the challenge. There is maybe not enough charging stations per use per number of cars. Give us what you think is there a rule of thumb on how what is enough, because the number of cars is growing. This is on one side. Now there is also other challenges. I think these grids maybe are not so connected. When in some markets these are maybe there is an app, you can see how many, if it's available, not available, you can book the slot. I think there's also a digitalization happening on that era as well.
Yes.
So why don't we have enough charging stations?
I think the lack of investments, and so I think what need to happen, a lot of public-private partnership, has to happen when it comes to having to evolve to scale the charging infrastructure, so that it can meet the demands of the increasing car park, right? That's one of the things, so that you will have enough and more charging, stations, infrastructure. And power is another challenge in many markets, right? You still need power generation happening to the extent to be able to have these, charging infrastructure to scale up to a level where, to the petrol stations, right? So if you're driving on a highway, that you will be reaching another petrol station, in a certain
In a few
kilometer.
kilometers or
Yes,
something.
but to evolve that to evolve to that level, I think a lot of investments needs to happen, and that's something cannot be done without the support of the government. Okay, so the public-private partnership is critical, and to scale up that charging infrastructure, right? And the power is becoming is another problem, right? The power generation, it may be easily available in some other markets. Not the case. For example, in India, it's one of the biggest countries, and you see a lot of EV sales are happening in the market. Yet, and one of the main challenges we face power shortages. Okay, so you don't have power available, electricity available 24 hours a day for homes, right?
It's not only India, many countries around.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I think we are in an exceptional maybe market
yeah.
where power is.
We never really faced the
This
power
is,
cuts and stuff like that, right?
Sure.
But in other markets, some of the emerging markets in Africa and all, I don't know how many countries will have powers for 24 hours. In South Africa also, people were using solar as an alternative, and they were not getting enough power available. I think last year the situation was so bad, and because I know one of my colleague was operating from that country, and they had to, I think they will have power like 8 to 9 hours in a day, right? So they'll have to somehow manage it. Either you have your own alternative power storage, so that can actually keep it keep giving you light. And so that's another and then the solar is what everybody was relying on in South Africa. So you can imagine a market like country like South Africa, which is relatively a better economy in comparison to other economies in Africa. You imagine what would be the state of other countries in Africa, and then how do you expect the EVs to scale up in those markets, right? Similarly, the same challenge exists in number of markets as well, right? There are markets like Europe and North America. These are mature markets where you will see a lot of growth happening. But to get to that level, I think the power generation has to increase. And of course, you can't do anything without government support, and public-private partnerships are really important to. The CPOs need to, in order to set up these charging station, charging infrastructure. So these are some of the challenges I see.
If we look from a consumer that is buying a car or driving an EV, I think one thing two things there is in their mind. What is my car value?
Oh yeah, resale.
As a resale.
Yeah.
And I think this is both driving the question before buying a car.
Yes.
While I'm owning a car. So, and I think it is two. What is my car value as a resale? And what will happen to my car if the battery, I face an issue? Can you give us any insight on this?
Battery recycling is one thing which the vehicle manufacturers are doing to ensure that, because the battery's life is generally about 10 years, right? So you take out the battery and then there is another life. You have second life, so it's basically about 70-80% efficiency. So a lot of OEMs, the circular economy is coming into the picture. So there are a lot of OEMs are looking at how they can actually reuse the battery. So that's one thing which is happening from the OEM side. But I don't have any insights on what would be the resale value, of these electric vehicles, in terms of whether
No, of course, I'm not expecting you to know that. But do you see this is something that is also maybe slowing down the sales of what is my value? Because today we have a well-established second-hand value for an ICE.
Yes.
We know, okay, if I buy this car in 1 year, I will sell it approximately this,
Yes.
plus minus, But today, I think it's a little bit difficult for a buyer to know, like, what is my really after my second-hand value of
No,
what
I
my
don't think many consumers, customers are thinking along those lines.
Really?
Okay,
Okay.
maybe a limited. I think people like you understand, automotive well, so you may be looking at from that perspective.
Okay.
For many, owning an EV is still a good thing. So
Okay.
they look at owning it rather than thinking about what would be the resale value if I sell
Okay.
the car. I think that might be one of the few last things in their in their mind when they're actually making a decision to buy an EV. No,
Okay.
as far as I'm
Okay.
concerned,
So you don't see that it's impacting.
no, that is impacting. No, very little impact.
Now, looking at the garages.
Yes.
Okay. Now, again, for many years, we have skilled mechanical that is repairing cars, and we understand the ICE engine, we understand transmission,
Yes,
gearbox, all of the dynamics, and we have done it again over many years. Now, suddenly we have cars
EVs.
that have no engine, they have no, I mean, it have some kind of an engine, but it's not an ICE engine, not the same transmission, not the same. How is this going to impact both the mechanical, like what skills is required now, how to address these skills? Because today it's a different technologies.
Yeah, battery management, is not the same as changing oil or
Exactly.
changing filters. In your
So how is it going
I
on
think
that side?
the lot of OEMs and support available, to ensure that they are the people who are working in the garages are equipped to repair the EV vehicles. I think the online diagnostics is another thing which is actually helping these technicians to understand, address the problem. This has to be a continuous process of educating some of these training. Those kind of things has to happen to ensure that these professionals are equipped to repair an EV car and vis-a-vis, because they're so used to repairing ICE engines, right? But other than that, I don't really have a pretty good understanding of what are some of the things which.
But do you think we will have the same mechanical that will change my, or this will evolve to be a new? Do I need a mechanical or an electrician for my for my EV?
No, I think more than the mechanic, you need an electrician.
So do you think this will evolve, or there will be, I drive an EV, I will have maybe a different kind of a garage for an EV and a different.
I don't
Because
think that.
I think there is yes, there is similarities, but I see that again, it's different technology.
Yes, different technologies. We've been trying to study that part in the market to really understand, because there is no set regulations are not defined clearly and what needs to be in place. So those are things. Once you have set regulations for what are some of the prerequisites for repairing a EV car, or what kind of skill sets you need in a mechanical or a service, the person who's working in the garages. Once those are very clearly defined, then comes the next step as to what are some of the things they need to learn, get themselves certified to before. But there is no clear information or insights available on that area as of now. We are studying that as we speak, to understand what is that, how that space is evolving, because we've still not reached a stage where a lot of these EV cars are coming for regular repair, and more so if you look at Tesla, for example. And so their cars, they say like they give about 7 or 8 years maintenance, like warranty is included, and they also recommend like you just take a car for servicing every 1.5 years or something like that. Sometimes people don't take their cars for maintenance also, for servicing also, right? It's not required. So we have not really seen, what are the prerequisites, skill sets required from the person who's in the garages, to repair an EV car.
Mm.
So I think we're still studying as we speak, to
Mm.
kind of get a clear understanding of, how we advise, what needs to be there for the aftermarket guys who owning multiple garages.
Knowing what you know, let's say hypothetically, let's look at 10 years from today.
Okay.
What do you think would be different in this car park that we have today?
We usually
10
do a
years.
5-year forecast. Okay, so
Okay. Let's exaggerate on that and say hypothetically what can be.
so as I said in 2028, what we expect from Frost and Sullivan using our forecasting, I think as I said,
Yeah.
we're going to see add another million because number of cars going to go out of the market. The 12-year is coming, so the number of cars is going to go out of the market. So 17, we see in GCC is going to be 18 million cars in in operation basically. Vehicle park is going to increase to 18 million. But maybe another 5 years if you want me to put, and I feel that it's 2% increase, it's going to take another, I don't know, 19 and a half or 20 million. But as far as our concern,
Will the demography of cars change?
no, not
Not significant.
mm, mm.
Will we still have the Japanese dominating the car park?
To an extent, yes. EVs, you know who the market leader
Yeah.
is. BYD is, the market leader as of today. I don't know. We still need to see how they are able to sustain for the reasons we explained in terms of the aftermarket, capabilities in the aftermarket. It's good you're selling these many cars. You're a market leader, and I think time will tell if they're able to sustain that growth. That will only come when their aftermarket capabilities are tested in the market.
We never know. Maybe some manufacturer well established would buy some of these manufacturers, so this market could.
It may happen the other way around.
Yes, it's already happening. So,
Yes.
so we have seen a lots of
Chinese,
acquisition
yes.
happening from China to
the
European.
Volvo cars has
yes,
been
yes.
acquired by Geely.
Hummer,
for example.
Volvo,
Yeah.
MG, and
MG, yes, yeah, that's how it is. So I think this is happening. The trend is happening the other way around, not so much, the Western.
So, do you see? This is my as much as I love to continue this discussion and we enjoyed it. Do you see any future trends? Anything that you think our audience need to be aware or think about of what's going to happen in the coming years?
I think one thing which the car ownership patterns will change, right? That's one of the major trends. Because if there are flexible subscription models available, and that's going to change the way how the vehicle ownership will look like, right? And because if you ask me, I would, and used car is another segment which is growing significantly because we're getting good quality cars, and every OEM and distributor is talking about strengthening their used car business, right? So that's another area which that's another trend, especially in this market.
And especially, I think the well-established brands.
Yes. You see them, investing significantly, to establish and grow their used car business. Okay, and so that's another thing which is going to drive the market, and the leasing a bit, as I said, because it's going to completely change the the vehicle ownership. Okay, so I don't want to own a car. And I don't want any commitment. I don't want to put capex investment. I don't want to invest about 100K, 200K to get a ownership of a car, which I don't know how many hours in a day I'll drive. Right? I rather take up a leasing model. There are some countries leasing models are so flexible that you can keep changing your car to different cars. So those are some of the trends which is going to drive. And these are new business models emerging as we speak. So. That's I think I think some of the trends is just going to drive the automotive market. Apart from the EVs and alternative fuels, it's just going to excite the customers to go for a new car in different markets of the world, different regions of the world. Right?
Sammy, it was lovely having you on the show. We enjoyed the discussion. I hope our audience also enjoy the same. Thank you very much for coming. And any last words?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, and it's good to talk to people, who are passionate about automotive, so we get to learn a lot of things from each other. I think I always
Definitely.
look for to learn new things. I think I have learned, a lot of new things from you in terms of, how we need to look at things slightly differently from how I look at it. So that's thanks for that. Thanks for the learning.
Thank
It
you.
was great,
Thank you.
interacting
Thank you
with
for
you.
coming. And this is concluding another episode of Wiki Bearings. Thank you for listening to us, and see you next time. And that wraps another episode of Wiki Bearings. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights into the fascinating realm of the engineering innovation. Until next time, keep spinning towards greatness.